I want you to take a second and mentally pull up your to-do list for today.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, just picture it in your mind right now.
Yeah.
Is it long? Probably. Is it stressful?
Definitely.
Definitely. But here is the most important question I want you to ask yourself as you're, looking at that list. Are you actually busy being productive, or are you just busy being busy?
Right, which is a distinction that, most of us completely lose sight of in the day-to-day grind.
Oh, absolutely.
Largely because modern society kind of conditions us to conflate sheer exhaustion with meaningful achievement. Like, we just assume that if we fall into bed at night completely drained, we must have done something important.
Right. If you're tired, you're winning. Which brings us directly to our mission for today's deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to explore this really unsettling, kind of counterintuitive idea that the endless treadmill of your daily chores, the emails, the laundry, the errands, the grocery shopping, yeah, all of it might actually be the single greatest threat to you achieving your true potential.
It's a scary thought.
It really is. And we are pulling the source material for this from a fascinating, deeply personal, and honestly quite provocative essay. It was written in 2020 by an author named Sofa Feng, and it's titled Efficiency, Depth, and Breadth of Life.
Yeah, and the premise he establishes right at the outset of this essay is incredibly bold. He posits that most people, fundamentally, have the innate potential to be absolute geniuses in a specific chosen field.
Like everyone.
Pretty much. He operates from the belief that baseline human potential is remarkably high across the board. Yet, if we look around, the vast majority of people live relatively mediocre lives.
Yeah.
They arrive at the end of their decades without any significant, lasting achievements to really point to.
Which sounds a little harsh at first.
It does.
I mean, it's a tough pill to swallow when someone says, hey, you could be a genius, but you're living a mediocre life.
Yeah.
But his reasoning behind why this happens is really what makes this essay so compelling.
Exactly. He asks the fundamental question of why this gap between potential and reality exists, and his answer does not point to a lack of talent or intelligence or even a lack of ambition.
No.
His diagnosis is that people are forced by the sheer crushing circumstances of everyday life to abandon their true passions.
They just get buried.
Completely buried. They become entirely consumed by trivial daily tasks. The potential genius isn't absent. It is essentially buried alive under a mountain of miscellaneous chores.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because he uses the very specific traditional example to construct this first major argument. And it is an example that really forces us to look at the mechanics of daily labor differently.
He does. He uses the example of the traditional housewife.
Right.
The author observes that, historically speaking, traditional housewives rarely achieve major, recognized career milestones or public accolades. But he asks us to look really closely at the mechanical reality of why that is.
And it's not from a lack of working hard.
Oh, definitely not from a lack of effort or stamina. It is because their daily existence is buried under an absolute avalanche of miscellaneous chores.
The list he provides in the text is exhausting just to read.
It really is.
It's cooking, washing, childcare, shopping, cleaning, socializing, visiting relatives. It's just an endless, repeating loop.
And he points out a tragic irony built into this lifestyle. Despite carrying a massive daily workload a workload that, in terms of sheer volume and hours logged, would easily rival any corporate executive.
Oh, easily.
Right. But an elderly woman looking back on her life might struggle to list accomplishments that she is truly deeply proud of in a tangible, lasting sense.
Yeah.
The daily tasks practically broke her down physically and mentally over the years, yet she might reach the end feeling she achieved nothing of note.
But wait, I have to step in here and play devil's advocate for you listening, because I know what you might be thinking right now. Isn't raising a family, keeping a household together, and nurturing children a massive achievement in itself? I mean, that is the foundational bedrock of human society. It feels a bit dismissive, maybe even reductionist, to say that amounts to nothing.
What's fascinating here is that the author isn't actually devaluing the emotional or societal worth of family labor at all.
Okay, so what is he saying?
He is using this as the ultimate case study in how miscellaneous labor fragments human focus. The core issue he is diagnosing isn't the inherent worth of the tasks.
Right.
The issue is the sheer variety of them and the constant context switching required to execute them. In cognitive science, we talk about attention residue.
Oh, attention residue, yeah.
Yeah, it's the idea that every time you shift your focus from one distinct task to another, a piece of your cognitive bandwidth basically remains stuck on the previous task.
So if you go from, like, cooking a really complex meal, to suddenly balancing a checkbook, to breaking up a fight between toddlers.
Your brain is constantly paying a massive switching penalty.
Right, so it's the fragmentation that kills the potential, not the work itself.
Precisely. You are constantly bleeding cognitive energy just to transition between vastly different modes of operating. And it is vital to understand the author's ultimate philosophical goal here, which he explicitly states.
Yeah, he's not telling everyone to become billionaires.
No, not at all. He is not advocating for everyone to become some elite, wealthy, hyper-famous dragon among people, as he puts it.
A dragon among people. I love that translation.
Great. But yeah, he isn't pushing a hustle culture narrative where your worth is tied to your net worth. His goal for humanity is actually much simpler and much more grounded.
He just wants people to live comfortably, elegantly, relaxed, and freely.
Yes. And scattered focus, being pulled in 50 different directions by laundry, cooking, and errands, destroys that freedom.
Because you're never actually relaxed.
Exactly. You cannot exist in a state of relaxation or elegance when your mind is drowning in the cognitive load of trivial logistics.
Which naturally leads us to ask how this author knows this so intimately. Because you would think he is just sitting in an ivory tower somewhere, philosophizing about other people's laundry.
You'd think so, yeah.
But this essay was actually born from a very recent, dramatic, and honestly somewhat hilarious shift in his own reality.
It is a brilliant, highly vulnerable personal confession. He details the stark contrast of his life over 2 distinct periods to prove his own point.
Right, the 10 years prior.
Yeah, for over 10 years, the author lived a life of singular focus. He describes his primary role during that decade as acting as a tour guide for life and existence.
So for a whole decade, he is just doing this one deeply philosophical, focused thing.
And because of that unfragmented focus, his output was staggering. I mean, he wrote millions of words. He conceptualized and built over a dozen picturesque communities that he calls new human life model homelands. He was wildly productive precisely because he only had to direct his physical and mental energy toward one single cohesive objective. But then, in the 2 to 3 months right before he sat down to write this essay, his living situation completely flipped.
It is the ultimate descent into triviality. He essentially started running a guest house.
Yes, a guest house.
And the details he provides of this new life are so intensely specific and overwhelming, you can practically feel his blood pressure rising through the page as you read it.
The sheer avalanche of mundane details he lists is central to his argument. He is trying to illustrate the suffocating nature of that cognitive load we were just discussing.
He's suddenly waking up at 5 a.m.
Right.
He spends a brief half hour online, and then he has to sprint to the kitchen to make breakfast.
Yeah.
And he notes that even if there are only 2 guests staying in the house, the breakfast process takes 2.5 hours from start to finish.
Just for breakfast.
Just for breakfast.
Yeah.
In that window alone, he is juggling more than 20 microtasks.
And breakfast is just the opening act, because after the guests leave for the day, the room turnover begins.
Oh, the turnover sounds brutal. He is cleaning toilets, scrubbing bathroom sinks, wiping down every table and chair.
The laundry alone.
Yes, he's stripping beds, changing bed sheets, duvet covers, pillowcases, and he explicitly mentions the mental frustration of having to manage 3 different sizes of towels.
Large, medium, and small.
Large, medium, and small. Why? He's vacuuming carpets. That's another 10+ distinct tasks, each requiring a different tool and a different mindset.
Then you add the property maintenance.
Oh, no.
He mentions spending over 2 hours every single day just mowing the lawn, noting that keeping a massive 60-acre lawn looking perfectly neat is incredibly difficult, physically draining work.
60 acres. And the list just keeps going. He has to be on call to answer random guest questions constantly. He has to drive 10 kilometers away just to take the trash to the dump.
And another 30 kilometers to buy groceries.
Right. He is doing the bookkeeping, recording every single cent of income and expense to prepare for quarterly taxes.
And compounding all of this are the background logistics of modern living that we all face.
The endless bills.
Exactly.
Internet, TV, cell phone, medical insurance, gas, electricity. He is dealing with unexpected emergencies on top of all of this routine. And the conclusion he reaches after 3 months of this absolute madness.
What does he say?
He looked back and felt he had accomplished absolutely nothing worth showing off. 3 months of his life were gone, and all he had to show for it was a clean toilet and a mowed lawn.
He came to the terrifying realization that if he lived his entire life this way, even if he possessed the intellect of a certified once-in-a-generation
It
genius,
wouldn't matter.
no, it wouldn't matter. That genius would be completely buried alive under endless mind-numbing chores. The potential would simply never see the light of day.
You know what this perfectly mirrors? It's like playing an epic, massive, open-world video game.
Oh, I like that comparison.
Right. You have this incredible world-saving main storyline you were supposed to be completing. That's your life's true potential. But instead of actually advancing that main plot, you get trapped doing endless repetitive fetch quests for random villagers.
Go collect 10 apples.
Exactly. Go collect 10 apples. Deliver this letter across the map. Find my lost chickens. You spend 80 hours of gameplay doing that, and eventually you just turn the console off in total exhaustion without ever actually experiencing the real game.
The video game analogy works beautifully for the symptoms, but the author takes it a step further to diagnose the underlying disease.
Okay.
He argues that this fetch quest lifestyle forces us into a terrible structural trade-off. We are trading the deep, profound potential of our lives for a very shallow breadth of existence.
And to explain the mechanics of that trade-off, he uses two really striking metaphors. The first one is the donkey.
He suggests that most people live their lives exactly like a blindfolded donkey pulling a millstone.
Such a bleak image.
It is, but think about the mechanics of it. The donkey is constrained entirely by its immediate environment. It wears a blindfold, and it walks in endless circles to grind the grain. It walks for its entire life, expending massive amounts of physical energy, sweating, straining.
But it never actually gets anywhere new.
Never. It just traces the exact same circle in the dirt over and over until it dies.
It is such a haunting image, especially when you apply it to modern hustle culture. You know, you are moving all day, you are constantly stressed, your calendar is completely full, but you are just walking in a circle.
Yeah.
You aren't actually advancing toward anything meaningful.
And he asks a really piercing question here, aimed directly at the reader. He says, who among us can truly look at our daily lives and say, what I do every day is what I like most?
Probably not many people.
Very few. The harsh reality is that, much like the donkey is forced to pull the millstone by the constraints of its environment, humans are forced by societal structures, by the sheer pressure of making a living in the modern economy, to endlessly repeat tasks they don't actually care about.
We walk the circle not out of passion, but out of perceived necessity.
Yes.
Which brings us to a second metaphor, which acts as the antidote to the donkey.
Yes.
He contrasts walking in circles with the concept of the drill.
The drill metaphor is the absolute core of his philosophy on achieving depth.
He says, imagine you want to drill a well into the earth. You want to go deep, like 1,000 meters, maybe 10,000 meters deep, to strike a massive reservoir.
Right.
The only physically possible way to achieve that depth is to keep the drill rig positioned over exactly one hole.
Yes.
If you drill for an hour, get bored or distracted, move the rig a mile away, drill for another hour, and keep doing that.
Yeah.
You will end up with 100 shallow holes that only go down a few dozen meters.
Yeah.
You will never strike the deep reserves.
He quotes a traditional proverb to cement this mechanical reality. He says, rope saws through wood, water drops penetrate stone. It is the relentless, unbroken, compounded focus on a single point that ultimately creates the breakthrough. Doing one thing and one thing only is the absolute prerequisite for achieving true depth in your life's work.
But wait, let me push back on this, because modern culture tells us the exact opposite.
It does.
We are constantly sold the idea that having a broad range of experiences, the breadth of life, is the ultimate goal. We are told to be well-rounded, to travel the world, to cultivate a dozen different hobbies, to be a Renaissance person. Isn't he essentially arguing against being a well-rounded, interesting person?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the author is making a very nuanced distinction that challenges that modern assumption.
Okay, how so?
He isn't saying that breadth or diverse experiences are inherently bad. He is arguing that trying to achieve breadth by doing too many things simultaneously completely ruins your efficiency. And ironically, it actually prevents you from experiencing the broader world you crave.
So by trying to do everything, you end up doing nothing well enough to actually enjoy it.
Exactly. Look back at his own experience running the guest house. He gives a very concrete, localized example. He had a personal goal for that year to travel to Prince George. It's a city just about 300 kilometers away from where he was living. He just wanted to go see it, to experience a bit of the breadth of his region.
And he couldn't do it.
He couldn't do it.
Because he had to mow the 60-acre lawn and fold 3 sizes of towels.
Right. He was physically and mentally tethered to a single geographic location by his endless list of fragmented chores. He was trying to have a broad life by managing a complex property and hosting diverse guests, but it resulted in him being completely trapped.
Wow.
His core argument is that singular focus is the only way to achieve the maximum efficiency required to actually win your freedom back.
So what does this all mean for us? If doing one thing is the secret to efficiency, how does that translate to the real world of making a living? Because most of us don't have the luxury of just, dropping all our responsibilities to sit in a room and ponder one topic.
The author breaks this down into a highly practical financial thought experiment. He asks the reader to consider this. If you currently work 8 hours a day in a traditional job to earn, say, $100, is it logically possible to earn that exact same $100 in just 2 hours instead?
A 2-hour workday. I mean, we've all seen the productivity gurus promising that, but it usually sounds like a scam.
Well, he believes the answer is unequivocally yes. It is mathematically possible. But, and this is the massive structural caveat, it is only possible if you focus your entire professional existence on exactly one thing. The more scattered and complex your work is, the more hats you wear, the less efficient you are, and the harder it is to earn that money.
It goes back to that attention residue.
Yeah.
If you are a graphic designer who also has to do your own marketing, your own accounting, and your own IT support, you are losing massive amounts of time
Yeah.
just moving the drill rig around.
Yes. When you streamline your life and your labor down to one single focal point, your efficiency skyrockets exponentially.
Because there's no friction.
Right. There is zero cognitive friction.
Yep.
You can theoretically accomplish in 2 hours what used to take 8. And here is where he addresses your earlier point about the breadth of life. It is only after you achieve this hyper-efficiency working 2 hours instead of 8 that you actually gain the ample free time, the surplus energy, and the relaxed mental state required to explore broader fields. You expand your life's breadth naturally in your free time rather than trying to force it by multitasking your primary responsibilities.
Okay, I am tracking with the logic. It makes perfect sense on paper. But there is a massive systemic barrier here.
Oh, for sure.
Achieving this level of singular, uninterrupted focus sounds quite literally impossible in modern mainstream society. The gig economy, the constant connectivity of our smartphones, the sheer cost of living, the system isn't built for a 2-hour, single-focus workday. We are forced to be generalists just to survive.
And the author actually completely agrees with your assessment.
He does.
He acknowledges that under traditional production and lifestyle models, the way our current capitalist society is structured, this entire philosophy of singular focus is nothing more than a beautiful, totally impractical fantasy for the vast majority of people.
Because the system requires you to pull the millstone.
Yeah, exactly.
So if the system is rigged against focus, what's his answer? Does he just tell us to give up?
He doesn't, but his proposed solution is highly specific, structural, and quite radical. Now, I want to pause here and be very clear with you listening.
Right.
Our role on this deep dive is simply to impartially report on the contents of the author's source material. We are absolutely not endorsing this specific group, community, or lifestyle choice.
We're just the messengers.
Exactly. We are merely conveying the author's stated belief on how to solve this societal problem.
Understood. We're just analyzing his blueprint.
Yes.
So what exactly is this radical structural solution?
The author concludes that because modern societal structures are so inherently chaotic and distracting, the only way to achieve true, unbroken focus is a complete withdrawal from traditional society.
Wow, complete withdrawal.
Yeah. He advocates for entering a highly specialized communal lifestyle model that he refers to as the Life Oasis, which was created by a group called the Life Zen Garden.
So instead of trying to optimize your current chaotic life, he's saying you have to completely unplug from the mainstream matrix.
That's the idea.
How does this life oasis actually solve the problem of the miscellaneous chores, though? Because someone still has to clean the toilets.
No. That is the mechanical genius of his proposal, at least in theory. In this communal model, the miscellaneous tasks aren't eliminated, but they are centralized and distributed based on singular focus.
Oh, I see.
By pooling resources and living communally, you remove the burden of every single individual having to manage their own separate household, their own separate lawn, their own separate bills.
Yeah, that makes sense.
The community handles the millstone tasks collectively, allowing the individual to dedicate their primary energy exclusively to their one chosen field of genius.
Ah.
Yep.
So instead of one person doing 20 microtasks for breakfast, one person who loves cooking focuses only on cooking for the group. while someone else focuses only on accounting. It is hyper-specialization applied to daily living. He views this specific community model as the only viable escape hatch from the modern fetch quest trap.
That is his exact argument. He views this model as the optimal destination for anyone who wants to actualize the philosophy of one life, one focus, without being eaten alive by the miscellaneous demands of the modern world.
Wow, that is certainly a provocative place to land, and it really forces you to take a hard, critical look at the structures we just accept as normal everyday life.
It really does.
So let's recap the conceptual journey we've been on today. We started with the realization that the endless trivia of daily life, the emails, the errands, the mismatched towels,
The three sizes of towels?
right, that trivia is the millstone. It is the structural trap that keeps us blindfolded, walking in endless, exhausting circles, tricking us into confusing our busyness with actual progress.
And the countermeasure to that millstone is the drill. By finding the courage to eliminate context switching and focus relentlessly on just one thing, we stop scraping the surface of 100 different shallow holes.
We start driving deep.
We start driving deep into our actual potential. And paradoxically, it is only through that singular, deep focus that we ultimately buy back our freedom, our time, and our peace of mind to truly experience the breadth of the world.
I really love that framing, the drill versus the millstone.
So, bringing this right back to you, the listener, I challenge you to look at your calendar for the upcoming week. Really look at the blocks of time you have laid out.
Good exercise.
How much of your precious cognitive energy is going to be spent just moving the drill rig around from spot to spot, paying that switching penalty, and how much time is actually dedicated to drilling deep into the one single thing that truly matters to you?
That is the perfect question to evaluate your week with. But I want to leave you with one final lingering thought to mull over as you go back to your day, maybe as you tackle that stressful to-do list we talked about at the very beginning.
Uh-oh.
Imagine if you could magically wave a wand right now and completely eliminate all of your millstone tasks tomorrow. Someone else handles the cleaning, someone else answers all the trivial emails, someone else runs all the errands.
That sounds like a dream.
If you had absolute uninterrupted freedom, what is the one deep hole you would actually choose to drill?
A very confronting thought experiment because it removes all our usual excuses.
Right, because it leads to a slightly terrifying follow-up question. Is it possible that we actually use the excuse of our busy, trivial chores to hide?
Hmm.
Are we deliberately keeping ourselves trapped in the fetch quests because we are terrified of facing the fact that we might not actually know what our one thing is?
This raises an important point indeed. The endless chores might be serving as a psychological shield against the heavy responsibility of our own potential.
Definitely something to think about while you're folding that next load of laundry. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the structures around you, keep learning, and most importantly, we hope you find the courage to step away from the millstone and find your one thing. We'll catch you next time.